So welcome everybody to the October 2024 PPAB meeting. It's hard to believe we're all almost near the end of the year. Um, as usual, I just want to start out going over some of the things that we've done since the last meeting with TrulinX development, and and then we'll have, as those you probably saw in the Basecamp message I posted yesterday. Well, at the end we'll have a demo of the some changes that have been enhancements to the dashboard that will be uh, coming out, we hope, pretty soon. So the first thing I want to talk about is global search. Global search is not yet out ready for general release. We discovered a pretty serious bug in it when we put it on our live system last month. And so we came out with a fix for that in the October tune-up at the beginning of this month. So our beta sites that we were going to have install it have held off until they could get that release installed. Because what it basically was doing, it caused about, I think, 25 different screens to crash. When it was trying, they were anything like converting a quote in sales order maintenance, they would trigger sending updates over to the search database because hey, I got it converted to quote. I have a new sales order that you need to be able to search for. And that task was not working properly from remote clients. It was only working on the server. So we got that taken care of. It's a straightforward fix, a silly mistake that I made. So the hope is that this month we will get the search up and running at our beta sites and hopefully not find any other serious issues and be able to have it up, make it more generally available once the port has gotten the proper training from the beta sites based on the beta sites experience. While I'm talking about bugs, a few bugs that we've fixed up. These are going to be coming out in the November tune-up in 2.5 weeks. Well, really closer to 3 weeks still. We've found a bug in releasing that could that would cause a bin to be overpicked. And this actually was a bug that was internally was reported about 8 years ago. What happens a lot of times with little bugs is a developer will be working in an area of the code on a particular, a feature or some other fix, and they'll notice that, oh, looks like this area's got a problem. They don't actually have the time. It's not their focus to actually dig into it further and fix it. So they report it and just leave it reported for eventually have a customer report it. And this particular one about overpicking a bin, as we found it 8 years ago, and we finally had a customer last month who discovered it or noticed it. So we went ahead and applied that fix coming out. And it is a little bit of an edge case scenario. You had to have the same item appearing on the pick ticket more than one time. So maybe like on a hose kit, but you also then needed to have the part number coming from multiple bins in the warehouse. And I think that's where it's that second part that's probably not as common. It's pretty common for a stock item to have one place in the warehouse that it's found. But this customer has things spread out a little bit more. And so they noticed that, hey, it's telling them to pick from the first bin twice, and we didn't have enough in there. So got that one fixed. One that it probably is more of a people will have a notice of is the quote import. We've improved the error message that's going to report. It used to just give kind of a generic message that said like the import text file contained no items to import, so no quote lines were created. And of course, then you'd say, well, why? You pull up that file and there's lines in there. I have items in there. Why didn't it happen? It just turns out that was just kind of a message that it would show if any kind of a unexpected unknown error would occur. And so that's being enhanced to give a more detail about what the actual problem is so that you can resolve it on your own and not have to make a call to support. Another bug that's going to be fixed in November. November's kind of that's the focus on this release is just pretty much bug fixes. The pro forma invoice. It was reported that was not honoring a discount percent or multiplier if you had that on your order line. It was just coming in with the starting price of the item on the pro forma invoice. So that's been fixed. It'll start out with being the net price to the customer. Two things in TrulinX Air are related to order pulls. We had found a bug that order pull could crash. This would happen if you had a pick ticket that came out and one of the bins that was on the pick ticket got removed from the system. This was mostly happening, I think, with a turnaround bin because that's kind of that's a temporary kind of a bin. After it's emptied, it goes away. If you try to access that pick ticket in order pull in TrulinX Air, it would crash. There was a workaround. You could cancel the pick ticket and re-release it, and then you could pull it just fine. But we've fixed that problem now. It won't crash if the bin that was referenced on the pick ticket doesn't exist. And then an enhancement that's coming out in the order pull is it's going to have a progress indicator, which we think will be customers have requested should be useful, especially on larger order pulls to give the operator a sense of how far along they are on that process. And another enhancement we're adding is user-defined fields will now have the ability to be included in your EDI files for the 856s, which is the advanced shipping notices, and the 810s, which are invoices. And that's being done by having a new document type in the user-defined field maintenance. And that's essentially what will happen. Those are used to say which documents show that user field as a comment generally on the documents. And that's the way it's going to be treated on the EDI files. They'll get exported as a line comment. And this was done because we have a customer who one of our distributors whose customer sends in PO numbers at the line level, essentially, which we don't support inherently in TrulinX. Those POs are only at the order level. So they're using user-defined fields, but they needed to be able to send that with the ASNs and the invoices to that customer. So it's a big customer. So it was a priority. And I believe that was
Don,
yes.
Is that only certain user-defined field types? Is it all? What types are
yes.
Cust SO line for now, but it'll be easily extended out to other user field types when needed.
This was a
SO
paid
line.
Yeah, this was a paid request, so we
line.
just did it where they needed to have it.
Yeah, understood. No, I just wanted to get. Okay, that makes sense.
And you have to opt in. So if you have existing user fields of Cust SO line,
they're not going to start showing up, right?
Exactly.
Right. And then last enhancement coming out, small but meaningful for a lot of people, is BOM listings are now going to change put a new page for each new work order. They were previously, you could get multiple work orders on a page and work orders split across pages. And so that's just, people wanted to have, we just had multiple requests from customers that said, we just want to have one per page. Especially, I think a lot of people are using it with repairs. And so they want the white space to be able to write notes for when they're using that on the repair process. So that's my summary of what we've done that's going to be coming out that you'll be able to benefit from. I do want to talk about just some other general our development projects. We've got a lot of big long-term kind of projects. Personally, I'm working on getting an API, I'm going to say a proper API, a modern API that can be used. And just as a reminder, what we're doing for the first release when it comes out will be allowing contact maintenance. But what we're finding is that in order to have a modern API, we need to be updating some of our tooling that we use internally to be more modern tooling. And that's a process that I'm actually currently working on some of that tooling. And unfortunately, some of it requires changes to your how you code. So we're going through. That's nothing. These are things that I'm spending time on and having to work on, but you won't see any direct benefit from it. But they're necessary and will be good for the long run. Also, as we add more things in the future that have these tooling upgrades, will give us allow us to be more modern, just overall. Other areas that we're having development going on, there's a project for credit cards to use the EMV chip readers on the cards, and that is ongoing. There is progress continuing. Nothing at this point to show or report on, but just wanted to say that's not a dead project. It is still being worked on. And then the other kind of modernization project that we've publicized before is quick quote entry. And we are at the point now that we are beginning to plan for the quick quote entry. Not the code. We're not going to code till we know what it is we want to build. So we do know that as part of this planning process, we're going to get input from our customers, you guys. We're not sure at this point yet exactly what form that's going to take. That's going to be part of some of our initial discussions that are coming up. I would probably have Tom Noble have a few words about that. But he is out of the country at a Volaris meeting, so he's not here for the meeting this month. But that's just wanted to mention it, that's going to be coming. You're going to be seeing more about that in these last couple months of this year, and we're going to be getting started on that before the year finishes. And so that is kind of all that I had to report on. I'm going to open the floor for comments, questions, and suggestions. And after that, I'm going to turn it over to Joey, who's going to give us a demo of the upcoming dashboard. A preview of the preview. All right. They want to see what you got, Joey.
All right. Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, it says host disabled screen
Okay,
sharing.
Julie, I'm glad you're here. I need to make Joey something.
You're something to me, Joey.
Co-presenter.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so I gotta find him on the list here. .. Make co-host.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Oh,
Joey. See if you
now
can
I
do it
have
now.
now I have something called host tools. Okay.
And share should be in the bottom of your screen.
Yeah. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. I see a thumbs up from Ben. Sorry, one sec. There we go. Okay, so if you were here for I think August, the August PPAB meeting, this will be somewhat familiar to you. But we just wanted to do one more demo of the CSR dashboard because our plan is to have it available for preview in the November tune-up. The way the preview will work is that it'll be hidden behind a system parameter, similar to the way all the dashboard functionality is enabled. It'll just be a system parameter called opt-out role-based dashboards. And if you want to see the CSR dashboard, you'll need to set that to 0. Um, Additionally, to access the CSR dashboard itself, there was a request for this at the last PPAB meeting, um, or it was in Basecamp, but there is user group security, and that'll be true for all the role-based dashboards. So to be able to access it first, your user group that you're a part of will need to have access to it. So you could just do that the way you would assign access via a form. Basically, it'll just be called CSR dashboard. Um, once you have the system parameter enabled, at least during the preview, you'll have access to this new sidebar. And of course, you'll also need to have dashboard functionality in general enabled to be able to access this. Um, this will allow you to switch between the home page and any role-based dashboard. So let me show you what it looks like. So for the preview, this is the default layout that we're shipping it with. Um, I guess you could say there's kind of 3 parts to this. There's a sales view. If you know what the sales widget in the home dashboard looks like, this will feel pretty similar. It has a graph view, and then you could click a little button in the bottom right that basically does a little flip animation, and it shows you a pivot grid showing the same information. There's a few date range buttons here. You can also click on the individual nodes of the graph to kind of drill down, get more detail in the pivot view below. There's this open quotes tab. It now shows your quote conversion rate. That was another request that we got. There's a representation of all your open quotes by how old they are. The date range we're supplying is 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, and a month or more. You can also drill down here, and that will filter the grid below. There's the sales order tab, shows all your open sales orders. We also included a couple of, I guess, grids that we felt would be helpful. Top 5 sales orders by the days until promise date. As you can see in my test database, I have some very late sales orders. Also top 5 on credit hold, ordered by, extended price. I almost said external price. And I wasn't sure how much, more in detail we wanted to go into now.
Joey, you
Yeah.
had said your sales orders, is this filtering on user ID added or written by?
I knew I was forgetting something. So this was something we discussed in the August PPAB meeting. So by default, the first time you open the CSR dashboard, it'll use your user ID and filter everything by the written by on the order, is what we decided. If you want to change that, you can in designer mode, but that's the default. You can see here it says JPL's open quotes, but you can change it however you want. That's just the default view.
Show us designer mode.
Here's designer mode. You
How
can,
did you get into designer mode? Can you slow that part down?
yep, sorry. That's the button right here in the top right, next to this export button, which I think is something I forgot to point out in the last PPAB meeting. I'll go back to that later. But here you can drag, here they're called items, not widgets. I guess a little behind the scenes thing is that we're using a third-party control by a company called DevExpress for these role-based dashboards. And admittedly, we're kind of bound to their terminology. So here they are called items. But you can drag different, I guess, data visualizations onto the dashboard. You'll then be asked to bind it to a data source. And this is how we're giving the data up to you, the user. In the CSR dashboard, for the preview at least, right now, we're giving you sales orders, quotes, sales order lines, and quote conversion rate. That's just a specific one that's basically only useful for the quote conversion rate. Um, and they kind of act as SQL tables. Basically, they have different columns. Um, so like here, I want to put in, I guess, the sales order number, maybe the customer shipped to, and so on. Um, and you can get really in detail here. Um,
Right. So,
I've
but hey, Joey, sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt. Could you just show how you would change the open orders to be JPLs to be like all?
Yes. Um, so I guess I'll delete this for now. Um, so here in the sales orders tab, well, this is true for all the items, but there's a filters button. And you just go in and edit the filter. And you get kind of a UI that lets you filter things.
Right.
So
It's similar in appearance to if you've ever messed with the filtering in the grids. It's
yes,
because it's the
that's what I
grids are
was
the
gonna
same
say.
company. It's kind of the same experience there.
Yeah, I imagine the learning curve will be pretty I don't know, drastic for learning this, but I promise it's a very powerful tool, and it's basically just the in our .NET forms, the I guess the column chooser and the filtering, but on steroids basically. So yeah, if I wanted to just show all the orders, not just mine, I would just click that off, and now there's a bunch of orders. Um, so since the tool is kind of there's a big learning curve, that's why we made the decision to ship it with a default layout. Um, so also the thing I forgot to mention, this does support exporting. You can even export the entire dashboard view. You could do it like as an Excel spreadsheet, a PNG, and a PDF. But you can also do it on a smaller level with just the items. Um, and
What about importing or exporting saved layouts between users?
That will not be here for the preview. That is a plan. Um, if I will say full transparency, if you're savvy enough in SQL, you'll be able to do it. The dashboards are all saved in the database. There's a default layout system table, and then there's a user specific one. And if you wanted to make one for all of your CSRs and then distribute it to them, you could do that in SQL. But for the preview, unfortunately, not yet. There's no way in the UI to import and export, but that is on the roadmap.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that so Joey, that could end up being not necessarily in the dashboard itself. That could be in a separate mechanism for managing the dashboard views
Yeah,
because the person who wants to assign those may not be the one who's actually using those dashboards.
yeah,
Yeah, that particular that's why it's kind of not done yet because weren't 100% certain where the right place is to put that functionality. So to get back out of that, you're still in the designer mode to exit it?
yep. So you would just want to click this button here in the top right, and now you're back in viewer mode.
Right. And those exports are all still available. You
Yes.
didn't have to go to designer mode to do the exporting.
Nope, they're still here.
I haven't seen this myself, so this is a preview for the other developers too.
It kind of reminds me of what one of my customers did with Power BI. It's very
Yeah,
similar to what they were able to do.
it's another BI tool, basically, is what we're using. It's just by DevExpress. So yeah, that's kind of, I know I went pretty fast, but that was kind of just a quick overview of the CSR dashboard. Um, like I said, the plan is to have it in the November tune-up, and to enable it, you'll need to check the system parm and the system parm table.
Is Julie going to update the dashboard training video for our users?
Yes, Chuck, I was actually just asking Joey a question so that I can update it. Joey, you mentioned a long learning curve. What are you anticipating is going to be the roadblock there to learning it quickly?
Probably it there's um there's a lot of terminology that sounds very developer-y, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
binding,
And
data
this is
source.
with the designer specific, making the customizations in the designer. That's where there's a long learning curve. That, for
Yeah,
the user who's just using the dashboard, it's pretty straightforward.
But it's
And
the
I,
agreed.
designing part
it's
and
yeah, and
yeah,
there is
So
documentation. I mean, Developer Express, the company that makes this, has documentation for how to
that's
use
what I
the
was just going
designer.
to ask. Maybe I could provide a definition, for all of the terminology.
yeah,
Uh, I can provide that in the video too. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
I think you guys are going to be surprised at how many of your customers can dive in on this, and their tech teams or people. Most of us are doing some level of BI, some level of kind of interaction, and this you know feels somewhat familiar. And to your point, this isn't going to be the guy on the floor having to design this out. This is going to be that the handful of folks in an organization that really set themselves up or set their teams up. This is just giving the tool. I think this, at least in what I'm seeing here, is pretty huge in terms of what it lets us go do without having to go and get special, stuff bolted on.
Yeah, and if you're using MITs or one of those other vendors, it's very similar to that as well. So
That's what I'm saying. This doesn't, it may feel foreign to someone who pretty much just lives their life in TrulinX and only in TrulinX. But I gotta imagine that there's a lot more out there that are using TrulinX and then using all kind of other tools um outside of TrulinX, and this again, I think you're gonna be surprised at how fast people can adopt what you're doing here.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I have a lot of them, but I'll spare you all.
Yeah,
I do have kind of a very basic one. So as I'm understanding this, you've kind of got your data sources, which I'm assuming you guys are embedding in the database as queries, right? Is that kind of what's going on there?
yes. Basically, yeah, it calls SQL under the hood.
And so I'll shy away from the dangerous questions. Simple questions, right? If we've got a data source, like what is that sales order line data source? Is that just basically all open, all everything ever? Like what's kind
It's
of the limiting factors there?
it is everything ever. Depending on
Okay.
the data source, there may be user security, like b based on user location. Um, For the sales data source, that is not the case, just because that's how we already do it in the sales widget on the home dashboard. But for the sales orders and quotes and sales order lines, it's everything if you have access to whatever user location.
Yeah, so like the sales widget that you're showing there, is that because this is a CSR dashboard, right?
Hmm.
So I would expect if I opened up my sales widget and my CSR dashboard that it would be either out of the box constrained to that CSR written
Hmm.
by, kind of just like all your stuff on the right, or at least be allowed to be constrained by that, right? I don't need a CSR seeing, the whole location sales. Maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe I want both.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh, as long as I can configure it, that's all that really matters, right?
Right. I mean, and that's where you could do, like, he's got like how there's the tab for the open quotes and open sales orders. You could have, you could replace that sales graph with my location and me, and and have it be the two graphs that they can switch between and seeing.
Yeah. I need to refresh myself on it, but I think it might be under the hood. It's access to everything, I think is what we decided. But in the UI, by default, it's filtered by written by.
Perfect.
Because I think in proper TrueLinks, I think any user can access any sales order, correct?
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no need to introduce an additional layer of security if they've got another way to get there. Um, right.
Okay.
Joey, are we in the November tune-up? Will we only be seeing the CSR dashboard? There's no other role.
No, this is just the first of them.
Gotcha.
But the turnaround time on newer ones should not take as long. A lot of this was, you know, adding the boilerplate stuff to
Right.
enable this
Right.
functionality in the first place. But
Like where I am on the API project currently. Once I get the contacts API out, adding more resources to that, will be much quicker turnaround too.
No,
And
I mean,
then
then you're talking about adding another role,
right,
right? And then the toolkit is basically copied over, and maybe a
yeah,
handful of data sets that, data sources that are particular to that role. Or
Mhm.
maybe your data sources are all one big batch of data sources too, because then it's just really roles, and you're just bolting on new data sources and building that library.
Yeah, which is why we took this route of using, Dev Express's tool because it'll enable us to get these, widget-like functionality to the users much faster. So
What are the next ones on the docket that you anticipate releasing?
I do not know yet.
Okay.
Is Eric here?
Well, other Eric, not Eric Berg.
yes,
Right.
our
Yeah.
Eric,
Sorry.
he is.
Eric G. Yeah. If he wants to chime in, he would be the one to ask.
We have to decide. We have a handful of them that could be prioritized, but nothing's slated yet, I guess you could say.
Thank you.
I have a question. Once these dashboards go into play, how is it going to affect the speed of how people get their jobs done? Is it going to be creating any freezes in data or anything like that?
Um, it shouldn't be. At least in my experience, it's I haven't seen any impacts on speed. But that's one of the benefits of us doing the preview for now is that um we'll be able to get feedback from you all if there's any slowdown before we, push it out to everyone.
So I have a quick question. When somebody's just staring at this screen, is it refreshing every so often, or do they have to
That's
do something to refresh it?
that's a good question. So it's not refreshing in real time. You have to click this button in the top left, and then it re-queries everything. So, oh wait, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, am I?
No,
No,
you
you
are.
are.
Oh, okay.
You are.
Yeah, just the refresh dashboard button here in the top left, and then it'll refresh everything.
Right. I'll say that these data queries are simple. They're not changing any data, so they're not going to be like in a way blocking like others processes might be are that do change data. If the slowdown, it would be more on the my dashboard refreshing might be a little bit slower because some other process is converting a bunch of quotes, and I have to wait till those quotes finish, before I can refresh the data, before I get results back. But it really should not have an overall um, impact on other processes.
So I have one other question. Eric kept his questions nice. Mine's a little more dangerous, probably. But if we have the way our CSRs are used to looking at this data, because like Eric said, we already do a lot of reporting like this. If we wanted a slight change or a slightly different query, again, a simple query still, what kind of cost would it be to have you guys plug that in for us instead to just slightly modify these queries for us, where they're just simple data pulls?
So I think that we're going to
or
have
add a custom data source.
Yes, I did.
right.
That's what I was anticipating that question.
So first, we're going to have to see what that process looks like, how much effort goes into it, because it's hard to isolate the variables right now. A lot of this was, allocated to getting that boilerplate, that stuff to implement this kind of framework. But once we have a couple under our belt of just expanding purely the data source, we'll be able to nail down, the scope of work for that, and then we could give you a ballpark on cost. And then we definitely have to do some internal design work on how to, potentially open this up to your own queries. I know that's the ultimate end goal, is so that you can plug in your own SQL, for instance. And yeah, so there's still some more work here, but we're very excited to have this in a previewable state.
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, I don't think I think we skip right over, hey, let me send you it and you add it as a custom. Like, spend the time getting you know, a simple query
Self-serve.
parser, kind of, yeah, self-serve here, pop it in here, name your data source. Just like most of these tools that we're talking about all require you to create your data sources from scratch. So we're already querying stuff, we're already having that. So there's hopefully a very straightforward kind of, some folks use the drag and droppy kind of GUI data source creator, and some folks use just write their query. But if you've got just a simple text editor, we can come up with the queries. Give me a place to drop my query, a simple parse button that I'm sure is there to make sure it's a good query and actually returns results. And then let it save it as a, whatever type of data source. So obviously I'm just talking like this is easy, go do it. But that's where I'd spend time, right? Trying to
of
get this
course.
right.
Yeah, that's where the bang for the buck is. We understand. Good questions. Thank you.
Any other
I've got
questions?
I've got a really fun one.
Okay.
Make you squirm a little bit. So I see this sales order number sitting right there. You know what I want to do when I hover over and I click my mouse, right?
What?
What does it do?
Click it and do a go menu.
I don't want to go menu. I want to click on it and have it open up the sales order.
Well, yeah.
Yep. Double click.
So 6 in one, half a dozen in the other.
That is possible. For some reason, full transparency, it is not working right now, but I have it set up in my layout right now the sales order number is set as a hyperlink, and you can see there's an option down here called click through options, and you can choose what screen you want it to go to when you click on it.
Beautiful.
When it
Obviously,
works,
you
it
got to
looks like
figure
a
out how to
link.
get it to work.
It was working, and then it got broken as we did something else. But
Yes, Ben and Don can vouch
that's
for me.
fine.
It was working at one
At
point.
one point in time, yes. It's not right now.
But yeah, when it's working, it looks like a link, and you can just
Hyperlink,
click on it. Yeah.
and it'll open up. Perfect. I'm assuming similar to what we're trying to do with the search, right?
Yeah.
Where, yep. All
Yeah,
right.
we
Yeah,
use the
that
term go
makes
menu,
sense.
even though you're not going to the go menu file option.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Under
make
the
that
covers,
term die, Ben.
Okay, thank you.
Die.
We'll do that. But under the covers, that's the infrastructure.
Gotcha.
so
it's using the same structure as kind of the routing of the go menu.
Exactly.
Yes. So
yeah,
that's
under the
why we
covers,
call it
right?
that.
I didn't know that was a dirty term, but
Well, it implies that I have to go up to this go menu and like drag and drop and take 4 steps rather than clicking on a button.
Fair
So
enough.
it's,
Right.
We'll rebrand.
There you go. It invokes bad feelings.
Cringe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will share a little bit of inside scoop here for the quick quote entry. Bill Horgan has already provided us what he thinks should be the quick quote entry screen. And one of the things, if any of you have sat through demos, Bill likes to use a lot of font sizes and lots of colors and the like. And on this, he has in big red font. It says buttons, no go menus.
Yeah.
So he apparently feels they're evil as well. Not evil, but just not as useful.
No, it's just it is if you're aiming towards modernization, that's not the route you need to go.
Right. Yeah.
But this is the route you need to go. I mean, this looks great. I think, I'm sure my head and that most people on this call, your wheels are spinning in your head like, holy moly, I can take my own kind of stuff and get really, really. Again, we're already doing a lot of this stuff. Different people are doing it different ways. Everybody's doing it a little bit different, but you're all doing something similar or want to do something similar. And give us the framework, give us the tools, and let us run is definitely the route to go here. So yeah, this looks great.
Yeah, I wish we had it when we started with TrulinX.
All right. Well, I'll stop sharing and I guess hand it back over to Dawn.
All right. Well, I already asked for regular questions. I guess to throw that out one more time. I will say, we're always eager to receive feedback, positive and negative. We like, we want to hear the negative so we can fix it, but we like to hear the positive too. And I feel like I think this is going to be well received. And so I'm not sure what the exact mechanism will be for how it's announced and control and having support assist with the first customer. Again, the kind of as I said, the preview. Joey mentioned a system parameter. It's not something that's going to be it's not on the system parameters menu. It does require somebody getting under the covers of SQL to turn it on. So eventually it will, become more self-serve through the user interface when it becomes official or I guess general release. So with that, I think we can call an end to this meeting. Looking ahead, November, I am planning to have the PPAB meeting. I believe it's going to be, put my calendar up here. It is the day before Thanksgiving, which I think it felt that way last year as well. No, I think last year was Wednesday after Thanksgiving. It is the day before. We are planning to have it. We'll record it as we always do. So if there's people who won't make it because they're on an early holiday, if you request, we can make a YouTube link available of the meeting. We don't put it up all the time because we don't really get a lot of requests to view the recorded meeting, but we can make that available. And I will say for December, this meeting would happen on Christmas, and we're just going to probably skip rather than try and move it or reschedule because it's December. Nobody wants to work the last couple of weeks of the year anyways, so including me.
Don, should we consider moving the November PPAB back a week since there won't be a December meeting anyway, and then it won't conflict with people's potential PTO for Thanksgiving? I think we would have better attendance. I mean,
well, what do you guys think? That would mean having it, say, on December 4th instead of the 27th.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
All right, I just have to publicize. I got to make sure so I will post about it. Then, if I think that does make sense. We'll get more people to attend.
Right. Thanks
All
for
right,
taking
I
care
can
of that.
do that.
And Dashboard is pushing in the November tune-up, right?
That's the plan. Hyperlink or no?
That's fine as long as you're thinking that way. Don't need it day one.
Yeah.
As long as we stop calling it a go menu.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you all in November/December.
Thank you.
Have a happy Halloween.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Don. Bye.